Witness history in the making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.
Okay, we stalled out there. We're on the... good morning, everybody. First of all, it's the 4th of June, and our little intro stalled out. So I'm hoping the internet is going to be providing everything okay, because we're still on the sim. We're not on Starlink yet, but anyway, that's because we're still on the marina and we're still on the hard. And it's a beautiful day, sun shining, all that sort of stuff. And our guys and girls are heading towards... Tonga at a nice speed, although there's I took a call this morning from Ayrton trying to make a decision on what's happening there and with the weather and all the rest of it, because there's northerlies coming. We've discussed this before, but I just had another quick look at the windy forecast just to see what it's looking like. And I'll try and explain it as best I can. It's certainly not a storm, it's just a wind direction, but there's some issues getting up into the Vow, and there's issues if you're anchored in Pangai, because a lot of the anchorages in the Hapai group are not well protected from northwest, and the wind in 24 hours is going to swing from the basically from the north or just east of north. It's going to swing all the way around to the south in 24 hours. But it's not big winds. It's only forecasting sort of 15 to gusting 20, 17 gusting 20, something like that. But the sea can build up and so on. So we'll go through that right now. So I'll come onto the tracker, and here you are. You're looking at the tracker, so I need to get on my tracker here, which I'm now on. And there's everything happening for the whole fleet, except for John and Popeye. They're still up in Marquesas, but they actually said they might leave today. So let's just have a look. Ooh, they might be underway. I think they are. So let's see here. Yep, 2.2 knots. So they've got underway earlier this morning. The 2.2 knots speed is probably a factor of they might have only got underway just in the last hour or so. Hang on, that's 2 o'clock. Oh no, they hang on, is that a 2000? Yep, that is. So in the last 20 minutes, they've been making about 2 knots, so they're probably still in the lee, maybe even motoring. Let's have a look here. No, they're sailing. So they were actually in the other Tahuta Island anchorage when they left. So they've only been underway for a little time. They were right here in the anchorage that's going. Let's look at the breeze here. Probably very little. Just waiting. Okay, there it is. So it's pretty solid. It might not be quite what they're getting there, because if I was them, who knows what. But anyway, that's what it's showing. So only 9 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. So they're 9 miles out. That's all kind of strange, because that's showing a nice breeze, and they're going slow for that last 4-hour period. But they're 9 miles out. So if they're out, it's only. I don't know what's going on there, why it's like that. But anyway, they're underway. That's a good story. And let's just zoom back and see what sort of weather they're going to have here for a couple of days. 4, 5. It's all pretty good. It's all showing sort of 15 knots, and sea state should be just in the blue, I would think, going to pink a little bit. Yeah, just in the blue, pink a little bit over here as it's built up. So back into the trade winds for them, and all looking pretty reasonable. So now coming across here to the fleet, a bit of a mixed bag there for weather in 2 days, but right now, the sea's up. That's all that wind disturbance down south, and this is showing 3 meters maybe. Although Ayrton was looking pretty relaxed this morning when he called, so I was surprised. Maybe it's not quite as bad as that for the sea state. And the wind is, it's picking up a little bit, pushing them along. In fact, it's probably going to die off by the time they get there for the northerly. So seeing as we're talking about the weather first, I'll go through the positions and just build it up here a bit, put the grids on so you can see where everything is, get rid of that one. And we've got Josh. Gary is right at the back here. Gary's got lighter winds. You can see there's a bit of blue there. So still only doing 3.3. He's been a bit slower, so he would have been losing ground against the rest of the fleet. There's less wind at the back. So he did 83 miles in the last 24 hours. Josh did 107, cracked the magic 100, 4.5 knots. Nice breeze on the port quarter there. Gary's got it right behind him here, which is a bit slower, but on port quarter for Josh, that's exactly where you want it for good sailing. So you're doing all right. Jasmine and Ayrton. Jasmine's catching up to Ayrton by the look of it. Maybe it's the scale that I've got. But I'll pick it up a bit more so we can see what's going on. And 114 mile day, 5 knots. Doing okay. Ayrton 4.7 and 107. So yeah, Jasmine's catching up just a little bit. A little tinge of yellow there. So they've probably got 15 to 20 maybe going through there. So that's good. Adam doing 5.7, making the most of that stronger breeze, 122 mile day. And Jacob, 5.8 knots, 117 mile day. So, yes, Adam's catching up slowly but surely. Eric. Oops, sheepers. I just went to, I don't know what did that. Eric looks like he's hanging down to Pangai and doing 5.1 knots, 123 mile day. So he's moving on. Christian looks like he's going up to Vavau, doing 5.8 knots, 120 mile day. So bit of a, divergent course again, heading to Vavau. Okay, so the others are all in Vavau. An interesting situation evolved here. In the midst of the thick of all the things that I've got going on here, Renaud sent me a message and just wanted to clarify, because he'd read the sailing instructions and wanted to clarify that he could go down to Pangai and make his departure from Pangai because it's closer to Fiji. And at the time, I just, had a lot in my head, and I gave him the wrong advice. I said, oh, well, that sounds about right, because I just mistakenly thought that it would be like Marquise's. But in hindsight, I remembered that it was actually when Ayrton was just asking about the weather going into Vavau, and then I'm thinking, if it goes down here, and it made me start thinking, and I checked the sailing instructions, and the reality is wherever you land, you have to arrive and depart from the same port. So I've given Renaud the wrong answer to his question, and part of that was because I thought he must have read the sailing instructions and blah blah. And I said, yeah, that sounds about right. Go for it. So he's moved down to Pangai, which is actually generally about 15 miles closer to Fiji. So that was wrong advice, and I will compensate his departure time for that, in terms of he'll have to leave a few hours later than his scheduled plan. So he sailed down there for nothing, but that's my mistake, and it happens in life. So anyway, Eric's heading down to Pangai, and also looks like Christian's heading up to Vavau. So wherever they arrive, they can arrive, and they get 8 days. They can sail around the anchorages and bits and pieces, but they must come back to the original anchorage before they depart for Fiji. So that's a change. Now, the issue here with the weather is that there is going to be a system change. If we look at the or system going through, I mentioned it the other day, but I'll have a close look just to explain it all once again. I'll come down one here, and you'll see what happens as we step this through. Here we go, boom, boom. There's every 3 hours. You can see the wind is increasing through the 4th, and then we've now got, that's where are we? 4th at 2000. Okay, so by the time you're getting through, this is coming up to the 5th, and there you can see it starting to roll. So 5th, and then the 6th, it's going through to the north because of this, or going through the northeast rather, because of this disturbance down the bottom there. And to give you a good look at that, this is the power of the pressure systems of major disturbance. It's all a bit strange, and it's sort of, you can't even call it they're small cells that are all joining together, because it's not as if this is suggesting it's going around clockwise which would mean it's a low pressure system. But if you look, and it probably is a low pressure system, but it's so confused with the trough. In fact, if we step back, I would declare it, I'd declare it a big distorted low pressure here. Plenty of breeze over the side here, not that far away, maybe 1,000 miles or something away, but it's sucking in the trades to zip around this high pressure system right here. So this is more a case of it's the back edge of this high pressure that's progressing out to the east, which they usually do. So these trades at the top of the high pressure, which is where they come from, rolls down on the back. So that's where you start to get northeast, and then as you go through here, when you click that through, you'll see as that high goes to the east, it's coming off the back and it's sucking in the breeze down on this sort of, it's not a ridge, but the system. It's coming from the north over the top of the bow, okay? And then very quickly it transitions from the north to the northwest and very quickly comes in from the southwest, right? There's a very quick rollover with calm in between. So the northwesterly will build a little bit, then it'll go very light, and then it'll roll into the southwest, and then it rolls up to the south. I don't know whether you can see that. That might be a bit small. I'll go through this again. I just want to show you the big picture for the moment. So it goes into the south. So you get a south coming over Vavau, and then it's back to the trade winds again as it goes through. So this is on the 7th. All the action in terms of local date and time in Tonga, it all happens on the 7th. Right, so on the date line of the 7th, and there you're back into the southerly. It's all over. So it starts at midnight on the 6th, and by midnight on the 7th, you're back into a southerly. So it goes from northerly to southerly. Takes 24 hours. This calms in the middle and swings around. Now I'll do an exploded version of that as well now, so you can see it, because there's a few people wanting to know about all of this. So you've seen how the system distorts the wind, and now you can watch the wind. So here's Pangai at the bottom, Vavau at the top, and we start pushing this through. So this is actually showing. This is because we started in. It's giving the now. This is really interesting because I'm wondering. I need to check this. This is a very interesting point because that's showing the 3rd at 1900 UTC. That is correct. And, I see what it is. Yeah, okay. So this is correct UTC time. And what I'm talking about is local time on Tongan local time on the 7th. It's all happening on the 7th. So Tongan local time. Okay. And you'll see how it goes through here. So here we go. You can see the wind's picking up on the 4th, okay, and then it's still holding next day, drops back a bit. So on the 5th, it's still holding from the east, coming through typical trade winds. So there you've got the 5th. It's starting to move to the northeast on the 6th at 4:30, and it'll be northerly. Supposed to be northerly. This is interesting. Midnight on the 6th. This is showing a bit later than windy, or a little bit earlier rather than windy. UTC at midnight. No, it's 12 hours difference. So that'd be 12. That's midday on the 7th. No, that is right. Yeah. So okay. So as you're seeing the time roll here, we're 12 hours difference from UTC. So on the 7th, when it's showing midnight on the 6th there, that's actually getting close to midday on the 7th, local time, Tonga. Okay. Anyway, and you can see it's gone light. It's not a big, powerful system. It's not going to produce anything of any great substance. You're probably talking, I think on midnight with that northerly, you're probably talking 15 knots, and this is the information I was getting from Windy. By midday, it's about 13 knots from the northwest. 13 knots is no big deal from the northwest. And then by I think it was 6 o'clock, so 6 hours after midday local time on the 7th, it was blowing about 12 knots from the west. So it's all, in the realms of 12 to 15 knots. It's going to be coming from the west. So just to progress that a bit more. Wrong button. Here we go. So there we go. There you can see it calms out completely, goes to the west, very light winds, maybe 10 knots, and then it'll slowly come around from the south. So it's blowing from the south at 12 knots by midnight on the 7th. So the whole transition, because it's not big winds, you should be okay coming into Vavau. It's not a big drama. The issue, as you know, coming into Vavau is climbing up harbour. And Dan got in. We didn't mention Dan, I will now, because we've just seen he's finally on the move. So at 2000, which was 8 o'clock local time here in the morning, Dan moved. He actually got in last night and anchored. Looked like he anchored right in the middle of the bay there. So he's lost a bit of time, but that's the luck of the draw. He decided, not to go in. You can see here. He's been there since about 8 o'clock last night. So nearly 12 hours he's been sitting there. I think it was 8 o'clock. 12 hours been sitting there, and he's now making his way up the fjord here, and will make his way into the harbour. So that's what happened with Kerry. And so now we need to, first of all, I'll come back now and just do some ETAs. I haven't talked about Kerry yet. I'll come in Kerry and show you what's going on down there in a minute. So let's look at where they are. Put the wind back there for Jasmine and Urton. I think they're the ones that are going to be making that decision on where they go, because they're currently near enough to 300 miles. 300 miles is a fourth, fifth, sixth, 200 miles. Yeah, they're going to be right there through that transition, because they're doing sort of roughly 100 miles to 110 miles day. They won't even get there in time, so it'll all be over by the time they get there. So if they keep doing 110 mile days, say, and they've got 300 to go, so if they were 3 days, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's now the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So they're not going to get in time to be worried about it. I would say 8 o'clock, they're going to arrive there at dawn on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. At dawn on the 7th. And at dawn on the 7th, it's going to be about 15 knots from the what I reckon probably northwest. So it's going to blow them straight into the harbour. So if they decide they want to go to Vavau, that's probably the smartest thing to do. Just keep going. They're not going to get there before the wind transitions, and it'll be northwest by the time they get there. Worst thing that happened is they'll just sail them straight into the bay. Northwesterly, they'll be up the top, so it's just a tack across. They might swing forward. Yeah, they're right on the husp of it, because it'll be 15 knots northwest, and it'll be on the nose a bit for them as they're approaching Vavau. So it might be easier for them to go to Pangai. I'm not sure. It's really borderline, and I'll explain why. We'll have a look at Pangai. So first of all, Kerry got in last night. He sailed into Pangai in the dark, which it's a much easier approach. So just stand by on that. So here we go to Kerry. Yeah, so Kerry arrived offshore here about 8, 9 o'clock or something, and then sailed down through the bay in calm conditions. It's a very open, easy approach, and he sailed into the inner lagoon in the dark. Didn't use his motor. Didn't want to. This is coming into the inner lagoon, but it's lit through a big ship channel, so it's not, and it's pretty wide. So he sailed in here, came across, and basically was anchored up just after midnight. He crossed the line. As soon as he crossed the line, he just dropped the pick. Okay, and so because you can easily just paddle ashore from there, and you're done. You're basically ready to go. Now you can see it. This anchorage is open to north. There's Renaud, by the way, at 8 o'clock this morning local time. He was just sailing into the anchorage, so he's going to hang out there. And if we zoom back a bit, you can see the anchorage to the north. It looks as if it's exposed, but it's not, because this is a reef coming out here. So in a northerly, it's still very calm in here, all right. But as soon as it goes to the northwest, the fetch comes in if it builds up a little bit, and it can get, you can get 1 metre seas coming in here, 1.5 metres, whatever. You don't want to be sitting at anchor here because you're on a lee shore, even though the bottom holding is good, and it doesn't get extreme because there is like this outer reef here as well. There's another little reef there which protects you even in this anchorage here. But the advice is to go into the harbour, for security reasons. And in the harbour, there's plenty of room to anchor, and you can put 7 boats in there. So anyway, Kerry's hanging out there. And what will happen now is what we'll do, because Renaud is there and he should be back in Vavau, but as I said, that was my mistake. It makes it about 15 miles closer, so we'll look at the sailing breeze up in Vavau at the forecast and estimate the speed that he would have made to get out of Vavau, and we'll delay his departure by a few hours just to put him back on track. Okay, so yeah, a few things to watch, and it's the anchorage and getting into Vavau is up to Jasmine and Urton, but it's not a big breeze. If we look at let's look at the forecast here for the sea state on that day. If we go to sea, we look at the waves. Boom. Okay, they'll probably start picking up a little bit. That's at 2 meters, and we start coming through. I have to hit that. Here we go. It's coming through. It's going to build up a little bit. So on the 4th, on the 5th, it's back to less than 2 meters, 1.5 meters. On the 5th, we're now coming through to the 6th. So the 6th midday. Okay, so it's the 6th midday, which would be about midnight local time in Tonga and Vavau, and it's still less than 2 meters. And it hasn't picked up that much. In fact, it's not picking up at all, going through the northerly to the northwest and all the rest of it. In fact, it's a meter and a half. So because it's only 15 knots, it's not a big deal. So all of that, you can see it dying off again when it goes calm. So when once it's transitioned through to the south again. So gut feeling is if you're really desperate to go to Vavau, you could go to Vavau. If you want to go to Pangai, go to Pangai. that's the best way to handle it. And that's based on the forecast, but the forecast can change. The wind can drop off and or it could increase in strength. It's part of the deal for sailing. Okay, that's that there. Let's come back here and hide that message. Sorry about that. And see what everyone's got to say. Boom. Okay. So, g'day Scott, watching from Backstairs Passage, Ferry to Penishore. The Backstairs Passage, cheapest, that's South Australia. I think if I remember rightly, it's that long since I've sailed in Adelaide. That's my hometown. Used to sail all around the Gulfs and stuff, but that's cool. So, g'day Rachel and Christine. Good morning, Don. Presently 100 nautical miles from Vavau. Cool. Christine's on the other Russell 36 with Mike on board. So she sailed from Papeete to Tonga. G'day Sid. Evening all. G'day Isla Skurs. I'm hopeless in pronunciations of names and spelling, but anyway, good to see you. Pat, I see you back home. Well done. Looking quite tanned, fit and healthy. Watch out for all that good Irish pud now. Yeah, good on you. And Adrian, hey Don, I love the trench thing for your keel. Oh yeah, it was always shitting when the wind increased, being propped up on a few fence poles. Yeah, exactly. It's a bit tricky, that one. But in a hole is the way to go. It gives you a sense of security. You can't fall any further, touch wood. But one of the things here, it's hard to imagine a really big tidal surge in a cyclone because it's not super high here. But if you had a tidal surge of 2 to 3 meters, I think we'd be afloat, and you might come out the hole. So usually, what we did in the past, when we were always here, we always drop the anchor and put the anchor in the trench and lay the chain out on the top of the hole. So if you did start to float away, at least you'd still be anchored. But I can't imagine it because it's a very open bay, and the way they've reclaimed this land here to build the second part of the marina is very smart. They dug the hole and then they put all the stuff coming out on land here that made all this beautiful waterfront land, and it's really clever, and they've done a really good job of all the breakwater, the seawall, and all this sort of stuff. So it's quite an impressive little marina. Not little anymore; it's actually quite big. It's quite cool, and it was half price pizza last night, so we were over there. And they've got the Ocean Film Festival coming here on Sunday, which is really exciting. Ocean Film Festival is where they have a program that goes from 5:30 in the afternoon to 9:30, I think it is, at night. So it's like 4 or 5 hours of films, and they put about 5 uh, adventure documentaries in there associated with the oceans. And then in Fiji, they've got these 1 day or 1 night screenings in about 7 different places. So it moves around, but it's here on Sunday night. So we'll absolutely be at that. That's pretty cool. And then later, I think we're going to try and show some of the films here in Fiji for some of the locals and people on the marina. We'll show the 2018 GGR doco and maybe some other bits that we've got here as well. So that's cool. Okay, favorite line. I used to use that all the time, Ray. Dan, when you crossed that line, was that yesterday, or is it today, or maybe it is tomorrow? Face blue, smiling, yeah. As some of you probably know, I spent 20-odd seasons, or 22 seasons in Antarctica, and doing all sorts of things, flying down, sailing down in yachts. Had our own little ship. Used to go down on the ship, and used to be expedition leader on an expedition cruise ship, a very fancy one called Orion. And we had 100 passengers on board, 80-odd crew. It was a 5-star ship, beautiful. And we did some seasons with Heritage Expeditions on Spirit of Enderby, which is a Russian 3-star ship with 55 passengers. And we would go deep into the Ross Sea. And it was always kind of fun because we'd go straight down there often to get around the ice. We would go straight down the 180th parallel. 180th longitude. Okay. And so in a matter of hours, we could zigzag back and forward from one day to the next, which is, doing the briefings, it was so funny because, in fact, I forget the actual line. So, well, the good news is that today we'll be going back to tomorrow, and then later on we'll come back and we'll see you the next night, And so it was quite a giggle. It's quite confusing when you're navigating too, if you're doing celestial and you're going across the bloody dateline, jeepers. It's very, very interesting. It's so easy to muck up, You have all these separate sayings in navigation. My favourite is cup of tea, which is compass to true, easterly add, true to compass, easterly subtract, as long as you're in the southern hemisphere. And if you're in the northern hemisphere, it goes back the front the other way and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, to cut a long story short, one time I'm sailing down to Antarctica, and I'm the navigator, 3 other guys on board. We've got 200 teddy bears on board. And I completely stuffed up the navigation. I got the cup of tea back to front or whatever it was, and we were like 45 degrees off course. And I'd set the course, and we'd covered about 20 miles. So, yeah, navigation can sometimes be crazy. And the other funny part is the South Magnetic Pole wasn't far away, so your compass stopped working. And when you sailed all your life with a compass, and then all of a sudden it just locks solid, it's the craziest thing. I've got to say, you really have to think hard. Anyway, all these funny things about navigation and celestial issues like the dateline. Hand pink waving. Cool. Dark Hansa. G'day, Warren. G'day, John. Okay, so that's enough of that. And if you can subscribe and like and share and all that sort of stuff, that's all pretty cool. So we'll see you tomorrow and see what's happening. See you later. I've got to press this one first. See if we can make it work this time. Nope.
The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.